What's going on, addicts? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. In this video, we are going to be breaking down the most boring wide receiver one from 2019, Julian Edelman for the New England Patriots. How is he going to fare with newly arrived Cam Newton coming into town? Well, let's talk about it. Hit that subscribe button for more videos like this before we get started, and let's go. Now, last year, as I mentioned, finished the season as a wide receiver one, 100 receptions on the dot, 1,117 receiving yards, and 6 total touchdowns. Didn't miss any games, but he did struggle with injuries and was pretty much on the injury report for the majority of the season. Finished with 256.3 fantasy points per game. Fantasy points in total, 7th, and 16 fantasy points per game, which was 9th at the position. So finished a pretty good year, but we did see his efficiency tick down. It does appear that the cliff is coming for Julian Edelman. Now, a lot of people are ready to throw him over that cliff once Tom Brady left town, but bringing Cam Newton back in makes his appeal, at least for me, go up a little bit. Now, just as a reminder, last year he did kind of bookend his season with some poor performances, which I understand could be a little bit frustrating for people who had 4 games where he didn't eclipse 10 fantasy points, but was very consistent for the majority of the season, especially that stretch from week 5 to week 14, where he never finished outside the realms of a wide receiver 2. Still had a few games finishing as a wide receiver 3, but finishing around 15 points per game. So very consistent season last year, with the exception of hopefully it didn't kill you in your playoffs in week 15. I know a lot of people probably ended up not starting him in week 16, but if you had faith, he still gave you a decent performance. And for a guy going as late as he was last year, was arguably one of the best values that nobody's talking about. As I mentioned, we did see some of his efficiency go down last year. So he finished the year with a 26.2% target share, which was the 7th most amongst receivers. But his yards per reception was very low, 11.2. That was 78th amongst receivers. His true catch rate went down a bit as well, 77.5%, which is 82nd, and he had the 6th most drops in the league. Now, granted, he had about 150 targets, so you expect there to be some drops there, but definitely saw his efficiency go down a little bit. Average target distance down to 9.5, his production premium at a negative 11.2, and his fantasy points per target at 1.64, which is 66th at the position. So again, in talking terms of trying to figure out when he is going to hit his cliff, last year he saw a dip in pretty much all of these categories from where he had finished in years prior, but it did not prevent him from being a productive fantasy receiver. And where he's going in drafts right now, as long as he's able to maintain, even at a poor efficiency level, if he's getting volume, he's going to continue to perform for fantasy. Now, we're not expecting the same volume for him. Cam Newton is probably not going to sling the ball nearly as much as we saw with Tom Brady, but I do think that Josh McDaniels is going to find a way to keep him involved in the system. I'm still not sure how I feel about N'Keal Harry, and Mohamed Sanu is going to be a decent receiver for the team, but probably not someone that's going to be that valuable for fantasy. So in terms of, you have to have somebody that's going to be getting the ball thrown to them, and I do still believe in Cam Newton as a talent. I think Julian Edelman has one last good year in him. Right now we have him projected to hit 81 receptions and 946 receiving yards and 5 total touchdowns. Put him just above 200 fantasy points. Not the wide receiver 1 that he got last year, but still a wide receiver 2 at value, a guy you can get super late in consideration to where you can get some of the other guys that are being ranked around him in the same tier. So a guy that I'm definitely okay with pairing, especially if you're planning on targeting Cam Newton late, get that stack. I mean, he's going right around the same place that you can get a guy like Marvin Jones, who I think both of these guys have plenty of upside for where they're being drafted. Gives you a little bit more leeway to pivot off of taking a bunch of wide receivers early, because you can grab a guy like Julian Edelman or Marvin Jones in the 8th or 9th round, unless his ADP jumps up massively once we get closer to actual draft season. Right now, screaming value for me, and even if it doesn't pan out, it's not like it's going to absolutely kill your season, but these are the kind of guys that end up winning you leagues every year, guys you can get from rounds 8 to 12 that are being undervalued, either based on the situation or just people are bored. I mean, Julian Edelman, with the exception of the years that he's been hurt, has been a fantasy producer year in and year out. And yes, he doesn't have Tom Brady anymore, but if you believe that Cam Newton even has anything left in him, Julian Edelman is going to be his number 1 target. So I'm still plenty satisfied with drafting Julian Edelman where his price is right now. Getting a guy that finishes as a top 10 receiver last year in the 8th round and beyond, that is a recipe for success. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.